Hi everyone, thanks for joining us today for our webinar on application requirements for tertiary education in the United States. For those of us that are joining us for the first time, this is our second webinar in a series of informative sessions to help people who have interests in furthering their education in the United States. Our first webinar was an introduction to general preparations one needs to make after they decide to pursue higher education in the US. This webinar is on YouTube and I just shared it in the link on our chat box. We did a survey at the end of that session and majority of the participants indicated they would like to hear more about application requirements, and that's why we are having this session today. Also, we have a Facebook group that anyone can join, and I will be sharing that link to in the chat box. This Facebook group allows us to engage with our audience on a more personal level. Some people have reached out to us for assistance after the first webinar, and we have been able to give them guidance, whilst for others, we are still waiting to help them, so bear with us. Before we begin, a few house rules. Please use the chat box to post contributions, comments, or questions as the discussions go on. I will monitor these and bring to the attention of the presenters. Please note that you are all muted on this call. If you like to speak, please use the raise hand button and you'll be unmuted. Lastly, this webinar is being recorded, shared on YouTube and other platforms. The panelists with us today have all been through the process and bring on board practical knowledge and experience. With Valerie can start.
Okay, hi, I'm Valerie Zule. A little background, I started school off at a community college, Iowa Central, went on to University of Minnesota, where I obtained a Bachelor of International Relations, then to the University of Baltimore, where I did an MA in Global Affairs and Human Security.
Efia.
Hi everyone, welcome. Again, I'm Efia Ajekun. I did my undergrad at University of Ghana in agri-economics, and I did my master's here at North Carolina Agriculture and Technical State University, where I studied MSc Food Business Industry. And currently I work with ADRA, it's a humanitarian organization, as a technical advisor for agriculture and livelihood. Thank you.
And then we also have Nana Sichua, if you can introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. I'm Nana Sichua Brownwood. I got my undergraduate degree in animal biology and conservation science from the University of Ghana. And I went on to do a master's program in environmental conservation at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. Currently, I work with an organization called Miatero, and we work with indigenous and local communities in securing vital ecosystems of their landscapes. I'm the program manager over there. Thank you.
And then we also have with us Edna Mensah.
Hi everyone, my name is Edna Mensah. I also had my undergraduate studies at the University of Ghana in economics with a minor in math. Then I did my national service, came to the US for my master's program in applied economics at the Illinois State University. Currently, I'm a research assistant with the International Monetary Fund.
And then we have Isaac.
Hi everyone, my name is Isaac. I had my undergraduate in economics and statistics, a combined major from the University of Ghana, and did my master's in applied economics from the George Washington University. I'm currently working with the Children's National Hospital as a procure-to-pay analyst.
Thank you, Isaac. And then finally, but not the least, we have Alfred.
Hello, everyone. My name is Alfred Agwekuchi. I did my undergrad in University of Ghana in the biochemistry department, and I'm currently a PhD student studying microbiology at Virginia Tech. Pleased to meet you all today.
Thank you, Alfred. And so for the way the structure is for today's program, Isaac will begin with a presentation. In fact, Isaac and Valerie will begin with a presentation on general requirements. Valerie will be touching on undergraduate studies, and Isaac will be touching on graduate studies. And then Alfred will take us through a mock requirement session of how he found his school. I just want to make note that the opinions that are shared by myself and all the panelists are that of their own, and it does not represent their employers. We are not a consultancy agency that recruits international students to US. And this is basically a community service that we decided to do during these uncertain times with COVID and everything that is going on. I mean, as these things are going on, we think we still need to have some kind of normalcy and discuss things such as pursuing higher education. So I'll let Isaac go ahead and take it from here.
Okay, thank Valerie.
Yes, it's Valerie.
Valerie.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll start off by sharing my screen.
And as she shares her screen, I would like to note that you can still ask questions as the presentation goes on. I will draw the attention of the presenters and ask them those questions so that they can answer them before we even get to the Q&A.
Okay. So hi everyone again. Like I already introduced myself. My name is Valerie. Kofi said this per your request via the survey we had from our last webinar today. We're going to be talking about walking you through the admission process. I would start off by doing the undergrad. And so a quick overview of what this, we're just telling you what's the steps you need to take to enable you submit your application. So it's basically your degree requirements. You need your transcripts, test, recommendation letter, statement of purpose, and application fee. So a little background work. First of all, whatever it is, whatever stage you are in life, you first need to access your goals, what it is you want to do for yourself, what you want to achieve. So if you're coming for undergrad, you need to identify, I want to come and do economics, I want to do this. First, determine what field you're interested in. And like I mentioned in our last webinar, another thing to look at is whether you want to come and do like start off with a 2-year university and move on to a 4-year. So those are some of the questions you should ask yourself, especially if you were here for our last webinar, you will kind of understand what I mean by you need to ask yourselves what you would, what route you want to go by. Then you research the schools, go and do a little bit of search, maybe look at the best schools in the US for this program or that program. I'm sorry. Once you've done your research and you've come to a realization that, okay, I want this school, that school. So many people will end up with maybe 3 or more. Like some people do their research and they find one school and they stick with it. Like, okay, this is what I want. It's exactly everything I'm thinking about. This school has it to offer, and go ahead and do that. But some people, like I did, I had like 3 schools that I had to choose for. I sent out applications to in my initial stages. So school has been identified. What you need now to do is fill out their the application. You start with the application process. So now this checklist here is not in any particular order. I'm just going to go through it because it's just stuff you need to do before you're able to submit your application. First of all, you need to fill out the application. And with this, I'm going to talk about a tool I just came across last year while helping my niece fill out do her whole school process, and it's called the Common App. So what Common App does, and it's only for undergrads, and I did further research and found out that the Common App too works for international students. So I thought it was just maybe people here help them simplify the application process to college, but the Common App, what it does is you can go in there. It's a hub where a lot of schools you go, once you've done your research and found out that, okay, these are the 5 schools I want to apply to, you can go onto the Common App, select those 5 schools, have it in there, and fill out one application, and it automatically fills out like the 5 schools that you have listed on your in your Common App that I want to apply. So you don't have to individually fill out one application, then go to the next, then the next. Another thing you can do with that too is link your college board, which is where your SAT scores would be, so that it could be submitted through the Common. So like basically the Common App just simplifies things for, considering the fact that a lot of people, 18 years, pretty young, you don't necessarily, I'm not saying people don't have an interest, but most 18-year-olds would find the process of looking for schools tedious as compared to someone who is maybe a more mature student who knows exactly what their focus is and what they want to do. Once you fill out the application, other things you need to submit to enable the application to be complete is you need to submit proof that you are done with your transcripts. That is proof that you're done with the level before moving your high school level. You need to submit an official transcript that shows your grades, shows that your high school diploma has been conferred on you. For international students, for the case of Ghana, we speak English, so it's not really, but it's applying from non-speaking countries, non-English speaking countries. You need to submit proof of English proficiency, a statement of financial purpose. You submit your SAT results, and I'll talk about the SAT a little bit in the next slide. For the undergrad, it's not every school that will require a statement of purpose or recommendation letters, because the assumption is you haven't really done much aside like a high school, which is basically going to class. Then some people went ahead and did some internships and stuff they could add onto the application to give it a little more body, but then it's not every school that would accept. Even with the SAT, it's not every school right now that is accepting SAT, but a lot of schools do. Then finally, you pay an application fee. Then you go ahead to submit the application. Then you wait to get the response. What schools will let you know if you weren't accepted. But for the most part, once you are, you get an official letter via email and an official letter via mail to let you know that you've been accepted into the school. So what is the SAT? The Scholastic Assessment Test. This is a measure of a student's readiness for college. Slide is self-explanation, but explanatory. But then it's basically you're tested on English, maths, your reading, your comprehension. And I did a little research, and in Ghana, there are 4 SAT centers, and they are in Tema, Accra, Kumasi, and Sweden. So it's kind of like here you need to register with a college board, and once you register with a college board, another thing it gives you tools which you could use to prepare for the SAT. So there are test questions, there are practice questions and things you can go over to get you ready to take the SAT. And like I said, the 4 centers in Ghana, you could use those too. And the College Board also helps you with locating the centers. Like they have a locator in there where you could go and select, I'm here, what are my centers, how do I go about the process? Then you go ahead and do that. So now I'll hand over to Isaac to go on to graduate. Thank you.
Thank you, Valerie.
You're welcome.
Hello, everyone. Valerie, let me share. Okay, thanks. Okay, you're all welcome, and my name is Isaac. Thank you, Valerie. I believe we can all see my screen. So I'm going to run us through the graduate requirements after you have identified your school and you know that this is the course you want to do. Basically, this is a quick overview of what you need to submit, and these 6 things are things that you are actually going to submit to almost every school. Every school is going to require you to submit this one, but other schools will ask you to add additional documents. But these are stuff that you would have to submit no matter the school you want to attend. So we have the degree requirement, the transcript, the test requirement, the recommendation letter, the statement of purpose, and the application fee. So when we talk about the degree requirement, it's just you have to get your 4-year degree from an accredited university from university in Ghana. So it can be University of Ghana, it can be KNUST, all the universities that we know that are accredited. Sorry. Yes, so you have to get your 4-year degree. I had mine in economics. And then you also have to know the GPA cutoff point of the program you want to offer. So if you want to go or if you want to come to George Washington University and do economics, you have to go to the program site and know whether the cutoff point is 3.5, 3.0 before you apply. So your GPA counts here. You have to make sure that your GPA is pretty close to it, or it's no. So for example, if you see that a GPA requirement is 3.5 and you have 3.45 or 3.48 or even 3.4, you have to try and apply. Also, you have to make sure that you are getting a good GPA. If you have not already completed school, try and put in more effort in your final year and get a good GPA. Then we have the test requirements, as our sister said, for the undergraduate level. With the graduate level, we have the IELTS, we have the TOEFL. These are English language proficiency exams where it's to test your English level. And these are exams that can be waived. These are exams that can be waived, especially if you're coming from Ghana. You did English from high school, university. So how do you do this? You send the graduate school an email that you have your transcript in English and you did your course, your 4-year degree in English. So is it possible they can waive it for you? And they will. Most schools will, because and it will save you some money because you have to pay and write this exam. So you have to know. Some schools will state it on their school site that if you are from Ghana, from English-speaking countries, I remember some schools will state all the countries who have exemption from this English proficiency exam. So you have to be sure whether your course requires you to write it. And since you are from Ghana and you've been speaking English, or everything you did in your undergraduate level is English, try and get this waived for you. We have the GRE. The GRE is the graduate record exams. That is a standardized exams which almost every school requires you to write, especially if you're coming for a science or a maths related course. So they are mostly English and math. It's mostly English and math. And the GRE, you have to know the GRE cutoff point for every program. Every program requires you to know the GRE cutoff point. Also, GRE can be waived, especially now that we have the COVID and all this. You can send the graduate school, or you can check on the school site. Every information is there. If you go to your program site, I was checking on University of Cornell and I realized that with their PhD in applied economics, it's not an obligation, like you're not required to submit GRE score, which does not affect your application. So you really need to read about this. Try and take the GRE as early as possible. because so that if you, I know probably we are all hoping to do well in our first shot of the GRE, but if you take it early, so we will talk about the timeline. So I don't want to go into that, but try and take it as early as possible so that if you don't do well like I did in my first shot, you can take it again and then be in the timeline and apply for the GRE. Another tip I'll give about the GRE is that when you're going to write a GRE, know the schools you are applying to, because every school has a code. So you know the schools after the GRE, they'll give you 4 slots to send the schools to. Why am I saying this? On that day, if you submit your score, it's free. It's part of the whole $210, or yeah, it's part of the whole $210 that you are going to pay to write the GRE. But after the test day, if you get out of the room, or if you submit the score and you are done with the exam, anytime you are submitting to a school, you are required to pay. I think it's about $20 or $25, which is a lot of money probably in Ghana. So you have to save yourself this money by knowing the schools you're applying to, or by trying to see whether you have to write it or not. So if you're not supposed to write a GRE, don't write it. You have to check, or you can ask your graduate school to waive it for you. Another test requirement that mostly is required for graduate school is the GMAT. So the difference is that the GRE, as I said, is mostly for the social sciences and the science courses. But the GMAT is the business side. If you are coming to do accounting, MBA, you have to know the GMAT. It's also English and math. So basically everything is English and math. Don't forget your schools. Don't forget your timeline. Don't forget to write it early. And don't forget to have the code of each school. Some schools will require you to submit both to the department and to the graduate school. So you have to know all this before the day of your exam. Then we have the transcript. I believe you're all familiar with the transcript. So the transcript, most schools, almost every school, almost all of my application required me to upload an unofficial transcript. So you have official and unofficial transcript. So the official transcript is basically, let me talk about the unofficial first. So the unofficial transcript is what you can go online, probably University of Ghana portal or KNUST portal. Then you can download your grade. You can download the PDF format. So those are unofficial transcripts. When you go to the registry, or when you request a transcript and they give to you sealed and signed, those are official transcripts. But mostly when you have your official transcript and you scan it and you upload it into the portal, it becomes unofficial. And when you are submitting your application, almost every school requires you to submit an official transcript. When you are admitted, they'll require you to send official transcript. With the official transcript, mostly it comes in an envelope. It comes in an envelope. I know University of Ghana comes in an envelope. So sealed and signed. I would advise you send it like that. If you are supposed to mail it to them, but if they want you to still scan an unofficial transcript to them, fine. But if you are supposed to mail it to them, don't open it, because what you see on your unofficial transcript is what you see online when you go there, the same thing. So just make sure that you send it as you receive it. It just shows some level of how authentic your documents are. We have your recommendation letter. So the recommendation letter can be 2 or 3, and mostly academic recommendation letter. So I will give this scenario. So supposing you meet a guy or you meet a girl and you like the girl, and then you have a mutual friend and you ask your friend, oh, I'm interested in this girl. What do you think of him? What do you think of her? Or you've met a guy, what do you think of him? And they say, okay, he's a boy or he's a girl. You know, you've seen it. So your recommendation should go beyond your transcript. It should go beyond what we all can see. If you give me your transcript, you have a GPA of 3.8 or first class. I know you are a smart person. I know you are good academically. I know you take your studies serious. But at the end of the day, graduate school, it goes beyond that. You have to do group work, group discussion, presentation, and all that. It goes beyond that. you have to attend career fair and all that. So you have to get a recommendation beyond your academic transcript. So how do you get a recommendation beyond academic transcript? You have to get a relationship with whoever is giving the recommendation. So if it's your professor, you have to get that relationship. If you are done with school, you have to try and start getting the recommendation early, because in Ghana, you know, the professors, they will tell you to go, come, and because they don't know you, they just want to be familiar with you. So try and start as early as you can, so the professors will become familiar with you. If you're in school already, try and go to the professors with questions, try and get to know them beyond just coming to class. Because professors, they don't, in Ghana, our lecturers don't know us. Most of my lecturers, they didn't know me. They only knew that I took the course and I had an A, even based on my index number. So make sure your recommendation goes beyond just what you have on your transcript. Make sure it goes beyond that, because it really counts. It really counts in your application. Then you go to statement of purpose. So the statement of purpose is, I would say, is just an interview, but you are trying to sell yourself, or you are trying to tell someone about yourself on paper. So your statement of purpose should also be something that you have to take seriously. So writing your statement of purpose, you have to make sure you include some your academic background, your career path, what the program is going to make you. A lot of people start with motivation, a story, what motivated them to probably do the undergraduate course, what they've learned in the undergraduate course, what impact they've made over the years. So try and make sure that your statement of purpose is something that will tell a story about you, is something that will tell a story about your future. Why you want that course? At the end of the day, you want to be an economist. Why do you want to be an economist? So that you can help alleviate poverty, so that you can help. There are a lot of economic problems. One advice I'll give, or one strategy with a statement of purpose, is try and read about the program, read what they are doing, so you can chip in when you are writing why you want that school. Oh, this is a school that over the years have produced great professors, or have had a great impact in the field of economics, especially macro, or especially econometrics. Because even in the US, some schools are good in economics, but good in macro, or good in development economics. So you have to know the program you are going to do. You can chip in, or you've read about a professor's, or you've read about a research the department did, and you think it's something you are interested in, and you like the impact they are doing, and you talk about the future. You talk about why the school, of course, why do you want to come to a particular school. You talk about the course, the impact the course has made over the years. Then I will also, these are additional requirements. So additional requirements, when I begin, I told you that some schools will require you to submit some other things, others will not. So resume is something, I remember I submitted a resume. So make sure your resume, mostly if you are coming from Ghana, it's the UK thing. So try and make sure it suits the US resume. And then sometimes they'll require you to submit a passport. You scan a page and then upload it. So it differs. There are some things I know I won't say, but a school requires you to upload it. So, but what I told you are what mostly every school will require you to submit or upload. I will let my sister Fia to continue and talk about. She is a general deadline and timeline specialist, very good in that. So she will talk about that. So Sister Fia, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Isaac. I would quickly go through timelines, deadlines, when to start the application process, what does the academic calendar look like and all of that. So first, to start with, and most of these deadlines are for graduate program, but I think it also applies to undergraduate studies as well. Please mute yourself if you're not speaking so that it doesn't get in the way.
Go ahead.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead.
Okay, so the academic calendar, just like we have in Ghana, begins from August of the current year to May of the next year or the following year, and it generally has 2 semesters. That is the fall semester and the spring semester. The fall semester is from August to December of, let's say if it's this year, it's from August to December of this year. The spring semester will be from January to May of next year. And that combined gives a full academic year. This is the year when you are actually attending classes. So you are in school, you have started school. And then for some schools, they run the summer program, which is usually 8 weeks or 10 weeks. And it starts from mid-May to July. And then for a school that has the last 2 weeks of May, they will have a 10-week summer program. And for a school that starts from June, they would have June and July. So it will be an 8-week summer program, which is also when you are in school. So when it comes to applications, generally when you're talking of finding recommendation letters, statement of purpose, in fact, starting finding a school, writing these tests that you might need, GRE, TOEFL, all of those things, you want to probably start preparing a year ahead of time to get all your tests done, to get all your documents done in preparation towards application. Now, when do you even start the application itself? When you look at the fall semester, which is the semester when most schools actually begin, that is the start of the academic calendar itself. It starts from August, but when you are applying for admission in fall and you want to be considered for funding, you have to make sure that by December of the previous year, you would have submitted your application process, your application to the graduate school online portal. And because December has the last 2 weeks, that is usually for Christmas break, I would actually say by December 15th, the mid of December, you should have submitted your application process if you want to be considered for funding. And this is generally for most schools. If you are not considering or you're not too much bent on funding, you can go as far as anywhere between January to March of the year you want to apply. And they will usually have the admission still open, but mostly it's not for funding considerations.
And of course, we are discussing COVID time, so does that affect it?
Can you say that again? Can you explain?
I said we are talking about this issue in COVID.
So that it's still the same timelines. Yes, okay. It's still the same timeline. It hasn't changed. If you are applying to go for spring, which is being in school January and May, between January and May, then you should have submitted your application by August of the previous year to be considered for funding, or November of the previous year if you are not interested in funding in particular. What is critical to note is that for now, with all of COVID, let's say you want to be in school next year, fall of next year, August. It means we are currently in August. You have from now till December to submit your application. If you want to be considered for funding, you should most likely have your GRE done or about to take it. You should know the school that you want to take you want to apply by now. You should know what program you're interested in. You should be almost getting ready or should have already checked their graduate school and department websites for what is needed and know if you fit in and starting to pull your materials together. Because, like I said, by this December 15th, even your recommendation letter should have been in. And you should have paid your application fee and fully submitted. So you realize that the timelines are really short in this for such an application process if you don't start early. And I saw a comment like how early is too early. For most schools, most of the time the application portal is open. You can log in, you can select the semester that you want to start school, whether fall of 2020 or fall of 2021, and you can start to gradually put in your documents and the information that is required of you for most schools. And until you are done and you click submit, you are able to log in, fill in some of the information and log out. So it's not like once you log in, you need to complete. So you can start as early as possible. The other thing is you can go to the graduate school or the school's website, read all the requirements and start prepping all that you need and keeping them. So that when if a particular program is not open on the portal, the moment it's opened, you can just upload your information and be done with your application in a day or two. Usually they will give you about anywhere from 2 months to 3 months to once an application is open for you to apply and submit. But the earlier you submit, the better, because they don't wait for the deadline before they send the application to the school. Once your application process is complete and the graduate school reviews it, they forward it to the department. The department starts to review and start to do the consideration. So it's not about, oh, the deadline is December 15th, so I can submit by December 15th. Someone that submits October 1st might have DS to the department by October 7th or 15th for review. And if the department board meets mid-November, the person might receive a decision, even though they are still reviewing applications. I mean, the department might make a decision on it. They won't communicate it to you. But all I'm trying to say is that the earlier the better you can get in. There's also, most schools do not usually do summer admissions, but there are options for summer admissions for some schools. And I will let Rhoda talk on that briefly, on how that looks like and what that even means for timelines. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, she did mention the summer because my program started in the summer. So just knowing the deadline, my program, for instance, at University of Wisconsin-Madison started in the summer, but I also had to apply the fall of the previous year. So I had to apply during the August to December of the previous year. And in the application portal and in communication with the school itself, the school asked me to select it as a fall of the next year, as though I was coming to start the September of the next year. But I was in actual fact coming to start in May of the previous year, meaning that they recognized the need that because it was a summer program, there's a need for me to have started early. Because just imagine someone who is going to start their program in summer, May of a year, and another person who is also starting the same program September of the same year. Definitely the one starting in the summer will have a shorter time to prepare and a shorter time to arrive in the country and start the program as compared to someone who will be starting the September or August of the same year. So with the summer admissions program too, you also have to, with some schools, especially as an international student, I need to state that, especially as an international student, you would have to apply for it the fall of the previous year.
Okay, thank you, Rhoda. Isaac.
Yeah, hello.
Yeah, if you can conclude.
Okay. So, yeah, so in conclusion, you have to really know your timeline. It's important. It affects a lot of things. So I would end here, and then Kofi, please, you can take over.
Okay,
Thank you.
we'll have Alfred take us through the mock. In terms of some of the cheat codes and things that he did to find his school.
Okay, thank you, Kofi. Can everyone see my screen?
I can see it.
Okay. Okay, so you're all welcome again. As I introduced myself earlier. So to begin with, this process we're going to be going through can be adapted for any school that you are looking for. So don't see it as something that's cast in stone or just for one school. Yeah. So I first recommend that you make a table. And then the table will have the information that you want to glean from the school. So the previous speakers have spoken about the degree requirements, the GP, and all of those things. So you should have a table like this that has all the information, and this helps you to be able to navigate to the website of the department or the graduate school, so that you're not distracted from what you are looking for. From our previous webinar, we spoke about how to search for a school. We said you could do just a simple Google search. You could look for authors of certain articles that are published in your field, and through the websites of certain scientific societies. So all these are avenues for you to go to find the school. So let's just do an example where you just want to Google microbiology graduate programs in Virginia. So let's try that, and let's see what we get. So,
and we are searching for microbiology because that was what I did.
Okay. 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 So when you scroll down, we can see a lot of tabs open. You can the biological science department graduate program, using this as an example. So since we are looking for the requirements, the first thing we should be doing is to look for phrases that leads us to how to apply and stuff like that. So a quick glance through the department's web page, you can find the research areas that the department is involved in. Any of these links would lead you to the programs that are offered in that department. Also, on the right side of the department web page, you can see the names of certain people. So that we have the graduate coordinator, we have the graduate director as well. So if you have any questions about the application, finding any difficulty, they'll be willing to help you. You just send them an email. Okay, so let's continue scrolling down, and here you see how to apply. So such phrases are stuff you should be looking for when you're looking for the requirements. So let's open this and see what we find. So the first information we get here is all successful applicants to the graduate program are provided financial aid through graduate assistantships and then fellowships. So when you see such phrase or such sentences, it tells you that the department offers assistantship or offers scholarship to whoever is admitted. So you don't have to look for scholarships separately from the admission. Once you're admitted, you are guaranteed a scholarship. We have the qualifications, so let's go through that and see what they demand of you. So applicants have need to have a grade point average, a GPA of 3.0 or higher on the 4.0 scale. The international applicants are also required to take a TOEFL test, and then they mention here also that the GRE is neither required nor considered this information there, so we don't lose sight of it. Okay, so we know the department and the school's name was Virginia Tech. I was biological science department. Assistantship and funding is guaranteed once you're admitted. Okay. We saw that the GPA was 3.0 on a 4.0 scale. Usually, our schools in Ghana use this 4.0 scale, so you shouldn't have an issue with that. At least I know for University of Ghana and then KNUST. They require you to write TOEFL. Okay. So one thing I want to make clear here is that, so you can see that the table has been divided into a department section and then the graduate school section. So some requirements you have to meet at the departments, and then some requirements also you have to meet with the graduate school. So you have to be cognizant of this and know what are the things the department requires and what are the things that the graduate school also requires. So let's go back to the web page and then see if you can find some more information there. So there's a link here, apply through the online application system. So this takes you to the application portal. Sorry if I continue with this. So they require also that you upload an official transcript with English translation. The TOEFL code, like they mentioned already, each school has a code. So the code here is 5859, which we'll put back in the table. With deadlines, to compete for financial aid, the school says that application for full admission must be submitted. Opportunities for financial aid are diminished. So this reiterates what my other colleagues mentioned, that the earlier you apply, the more your chances are going to be in getting funding. So you should take that very seriously. So let's go back to our table and put in some of the information that we found so far. So we know that GRE is not required for this department. They've mentioned the deadline to be December 15th. And then the school code for the TOEFL was 5859.
Alfred, can I jump in real quick?
Of course.
Someone wants to know if this slideshow can be shared.
Yeah. On the school's the department's web page. The department also refers us to the graduate school to see what requirement the graduate school also demands. So let's open that and see what we can see there. Earlier I mentioned that sometimes you can be led to the application portal. So this link takes us there. So on the department's on the graduate school's webpage, there is a video tutorial here. Some schools do that. That leads you or guides you through the application process on the portal. So you can click that, and then that will help you with information with regards to transcripts. The graduate school demands that you include a scanned copy of your college transcripts in your online application, and you should arrange for an official copy once you've got the admission. With letters of recommendation, the graduate school defers to the department to whatever the department requires. So check to see whether your department requires letters of recommendation for references. If so, you can include their email addresses in the online application, or have them send paper copies directly to the programs department. So with these, let's go back to our table and then put this information there. So we have the application fee, which is $75. We saw this in the graduate school section, so let me just put that here.
Alfred, is there any way you got your application fee waived?
Yes, so actually that's a good point. So my school, for example, when I knew the department I was applying to, I just sent an email to the programs director to ask if I could be eligible for a waiver. Yeah, and I got it. So it's something that you should try to do, so you can save yourself some money.
I know that just for some schools, even just knowing an alumni from that school could also get you a waiver. Yeah. Applying at an earlier date could get you a waiver. Yeah. And that would save you $75.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Noted. Okay, so let's go back to the graduate school's webpage and let's exhaust whatever information we have there. So on the graduate school's testing requirements as well, they have information here for the code, which was the same thing on the department's webpage. They have information here that the international students may be required to submit TOEFL. And they have a testing requirements page where we can find more information about testing. So some schools, like they mentioned, could waive the TOEFL for you because you are from an English-speaking country, or the university that you attended, the instruction was through English. So let's see what they have here. So the graduate school requires that non-US citizens or non-US permanent residents demonstrate English proficiency to ensure that the university, they have sufficient skills to go through the program. But if you go further, you see here that they say English proficiency can also be demonstrated through a conferred bachelor's degree from an accredited university where English is the medium of instruction. If this applies to you, we'll code a waiver for the English proficiency requirement into your application once we receive and review your transcript showing degree conferral a medium of instruction as English. So once you see this, you can assume and be confident that you don't have to take the TOEFL test. If you have doubts about it, you can still send them an email, either the graduate school or the department, and just confirm that, and then you can have a peace of mind.
Alfred. Alfred, a quick one. Can you mention
so
who?
The web page.
Can you mention who in the graduate school, or how to contact the graduate school and the department? Is there a place you can go to do that? Thank you.
Yeah, so for example, with regards to the department, there are certain email. So we have the program coordinator here with the email address here. We have the program director with the email address. These are people you can use school email address here that you can easily contact for any information that you want.
Thank you.
Is that clear? Okay. So let's go back to our table information that we can put in. So I think, yeah, for the TOEFL, we said it could be waived. Okay.
So Alfred, how many schools did you do this table for when you were?
So I did this table for about 8 schools. Okay. So once you do this table for all those schools, you can tell us, you can know whether you meet their requirements, and then be able to narrow down on the schools that you can apply to.
Exactly.
Those that you can apply to.
Exactly.
One other thing that I would like to share with you also is to keep the links. So for example, if you find any information that is important on certain requirements, just keep the link so you don't, the next time, because when you are running through 8 schools, you might forget some things. Exactly. Just keep the link, and then you go back to the table, and then just save the link there, so that next time you don't have to stress yourself looking for that information, because it can be a pain sometimes.
Exactly.
So some of the information are also hard to find on the website. For example, degree requirements or prerequisite courses. So some departments require that you should have taken some courses before applying to the department. So in that case, since it's not on the website, you have to email the program coordinator about that, or the graduate school. So you can just put a note there that you email the program coordinator on that.
Okay.
Okay. What other information do we now have? We have.
I think the personal statement, we talked about that one.
Information on the transcripts. We have information on the GRE. So basically, we have the program name. As I said, once you go through the research areas, you can narrow down which program that you want to do, and that is what you put there. So it differs. That would differ for every department,
and for every school
as well. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much.
Basically, that is all. And I would like to just say that with all of this information, you should be equipped to know which schools you can apply to. And if you have any difficulty, any information, or anything that you need, you can speak to any of the panelists, and we'll be happy to help you. Ruda can take over from here and just let us see how a typical online portal will look like.
Quickly.
Yeah. Ruda, you're muted.
Yeah. Thank you so much. So all the others have gone through your requirements. So let's say you have everything ready, or you don't have everything ready, but I is just curious to know what the online portal may look like. The online portal would basically give you, it would be a system that would ask you to upload these kind of all the information that have already been spoken about. Could you please move on to the next slide?
Of course.
Yes, and as the information, there's also more information on things that they will talk about already. You know about your personal data will definitely be collected. They'll also collect some information to know about your conduct, or which will be in the sensitive data area, whether you have a criminal background, your race and sex. And here you can have the option to choose. Nowadays in the US, you have the option to choose whether to let them to check the box. So if you may have heard, there will be about checking the box. So yeah, there's always a check a box over there, but you can you can choose not to. So you say, I choose not to disclose my race, or I choose not to disclose whether I am male, female, or non-sexual. You can choose to do that. But for the criminal background area is a place that you cannot say, I choose not to disclose. But what the school will let you know is that it is not like an information that they are going to be make public about you, but it is something that it will inform them about their decision, help them in their decision process. So
and with now, that, Sechiwa, could you talk about that, and in terms of how you can obtain that? For example, if you are using Ghana as a case study.
Yeah, so Ghana as an example for criminal background, you can usually get it from the police. you go to the police department.
Is there a cost?
I am not too sure. I'm not
Can
too sure.
I chip in on this?
Yes, please.
So I've had the chance to obtain a criminal background check from the police headquarters. Yes, there is a cost to it. Yeah. So it's not free, but you can request for it and it takes a couple of days or weeks. Yes. And there is a cost to it.
Yes. So, but oftentimes this data the school would request for online will usually with you selecting, it will be a list of questions and then you would have to select. So probably if you have a criminal background, then I'm sure that is when that is when they would ask you to actually submit the reports from the police also. But it will usually be in a set.
Does having a criminal background stop you from applying necessarily?
Not necessarily, but it will also let them know your intent to come into school. It will help them know your intent. You will see that in the next couple of slides. I did have the opportunity to take some snapshots from some schools on what the portal will actually look like. So let's see that.
Should we move to the next slide?
Yes, please.
Okay.
So basically the first on the system, you would have all this list of things that you would have to answer or address during your application portal. And I also have to state that it can take you like 30 minutes. If you have prepared yourself with everything that my colleagues have just talked about, it can take you about 30 minutes max to finish an application for a particular school. So your personal data, or you can, as you can tell, the request for this. Could we go on to the next? And then, yeah, more on it, your email address, whether you're a citizen, which country you're coming from, so that they can know whether you're going to be an international student or not. And please wait. I know you can see the races and ethnicity. They've written something about optional over there. Like I said, you could decide to let them know your race or not, but it will be things that will come up on your application. Could you please move on to the next? And then about the criminal area, that is where some will find it about in a section called conduct. Others will also specifically list it as sensitive data. So for instance, they've written here that you are not required to answer yes to all these questions if the criminal adjustment or conviction has been expunged. Expunged here meaning that it has been cleared or cleaned from your record, but you've ever had a history. So you're not required to really answer yes to that if it has been expunged or sealed. And you can get your criminal history sealed by a judge who has overseen the case. So some of the questions, were you pending any criminal charge? Maybe the time you were applying to the school, you are involved in a criminal case that is currently ongoing, so you've not been charged yet, or so for instance, in that area, are you pending? You would say, yes, I'm pending, or no, I'm not. So that's in the area, and then the disciplinary history to let them, it gives them more information about who is applying, who will be on their campus, so that if there are certain changes they need to put in place regarding your presence, that will be put in place for you.
Okay. Thank you.
And also with there's also an area that would ask you. So that my friends talked about recommendation. So with your recommendation letters, most schools, the recommendations can be gotten. They will send an email to the school, and in this email, before they send it, they are requiring you to authorize them to release that in terms of whether to give you access to whatever your recommenders send to them or not to. So this is the only chance you can decide and answer to them that I do not want to know what my recommenders say about me to you. Then they know that, so that you can never go back again and be saying you want to see what the recommender said. Is that why they did not admit you or not? Or you make a decision as to, I want to know what the recommenders will say about me. So it's a simple yes and no that you would choose. personal preferences, I would say no. I do not want to know what the recommenders will say about me, because you are rest assured that your recommenders know you, and then they are going to speak truth and things that would also help facilitate your application process. If you choose to say yes, you want to know, it can send it. I feel like it could portray a sense of insecurity on not knowing the recommender, so you want to know so that you could decline that recommendation from that recommender later on, or not to be used. So I mean, you would just have to decide on that on your own. And another aspect, when all this is done, you get to a place where you have your application fee, you have to make payments and submit. And like Alfred mentioned, you can get an application waiver. If you have an application waiver, maybe yes, the school could send you a code or give you something that you could include in your application process that will enable you get a waiver. You put it in there. Other than that, you make your payment and hit review and then submit your application, and you are done with your school your degree application process.
Okay, thank you so much, Rhoda. I think at this point we will do the
next slide.
Next slide is questions and answers. There are certain questions. Someone wants to know, do you need a master's degree before you apply for a doctoral program? And any of our panelists could answer that. And Alfred, I'm looking at you because you have that.
Yeah, so I have experience with that. So I didn't have a master's degree before coming. So it's very common in the science program, and it's pretty straightforward. The requirements are just the same. You don't have to do anything different from somebody who has a master's degree applying for the PhD program.
Whoever asked that question, I hope it answers it. But at this point, I would like to open the floor for anyone that wants to ask a question. I know, sir, the time period was an hour and a half, and so we are supposed to close at 12:30. It's 12:15 right now, so we have 15 minutes for people to ask questions. And so if anyone wants to ask a question, you can go ahead, use your raise hand button, and I will call on you to ask a question, and then we'll go on that way.
Nat, also check in the chat box, because people have already asked questions that haven't been yet answered.
If Edna, you want to answer any of the questions, just go ahead, because I'm trying to.
There was a question on schools that study French. It has been addressed in the chat box, but I just wanted to also say it here in case for people who did not read that. So yes, there are several schools here in the United States that offer language studies. And it's like Alfred mentioned at the beginning, how you cater your search for a certain program or a school will lead you to schools that study those the particular program you want. So there are several schools here. So to answer the question, yes, there are several schools: French, Spanish, Chinese. I even know of a school that even you can study Swahili. There are schools that you can study African culture, African history. There are several schools. So yeah, in the language and history or African studies area.
All right, thank you. Edna, any question that you wanted to address?
Yes, I'm going through the questions. I think some of them have already been addressed while they were having the presentation. Someone asked, when do you advise students start the process? We already answered this. Normally, you start a year ahead of the year you intend to be in school. So for example, if you are planning to be in school in August or September of 2021, you should start your application somewhere between September this year and December. That's when typically you would start your application process, including if you have to write a GRE, studying for it and getting it written. Exactly. And someone asked, How can students request for application fees to be waived? That question has also been answered already. When you go to your department's website or wherever, you will access information for application. Normally there is you will have the contact information for your programs director or your programs coordinator, so you can send the email to them. Also, maybe the departments would have an email that you can pretty much contact. Please, how can we apply for scholarships? So some schools already have their scholarships embedded in the application process, meaning that once you apply for the school, they automatically consider you for scholarships. Some other schools is a two-step process. So they have their scholarships as a second application outside of the school application itself. So you have to distinguish between the two and apply accordingly. But there is, on every school, there is a portal or there is a website that explains all the funding types they have. So you can explore that and if you have to add it to your school application or you have to do a separate application. And then about the French schools, yes, I have a friend who actually minored in French and then majored in international relations in a school here in the US. Should I continue? I'm sorry.
Continue.
Yeah. So yes, I have a friend who minored in French and majored in international relations in a school here in the US. So some schools do that. I would advise, if you want to get deep in French, you can look at the schools in France and other countries. But if you are just looking to do a bit of a combination of some other program, maybe economics, international relations, and French, then yes, some US schools would have that. So you can also explore that.
You could even look at schools in Canada.
Yes, Canada too has very good programs. Actually, we should do a webinar on Canada too, because they actually have very good prospects as far as graduate school. Someone said, how early is too early, especially for funding? We already addressed this. You should send in your application before December. Yeah.
There is also a question on, is it advisable to come to school even if you could not get scholarship? To answer a bit of that, yeah, especially as an international student, even before you'll be able to come into the school, the aspect of how you fund your education will need to be addressed before the school will give you your I-20 or the documents that you need to be able to apply for a visa. So to answer that question, is yes and no, in that yes, you have to address that with the school before you come in, but if you couldn't address it or if you did not address it, I doubt the chances of you being able to get admitted into the country or even the school giving you the I-20 to be in school. Unless, of course, you're already in the United States and you have been admitted, then that way you could work on getting funding whilst you are in school.
Okay, that sounds good. Edem has a question. So Edem, if you can go ahead and ask your question.
Okay, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes, please.
All right, thank you guys for hosting this. I really appreciate the input and the advice that you guys are giving to prospective students on this platform. I think my question is, when I was coming in, you had to be chasing professors here and there, doctors or lecturers here and there for recommendation letters. And it can be stressful. I don't lie to you, it can be stressful. And using a year to build a rapport, even though their reputation is on the line, as to they giving you a recommendation, I know that you still have to go ahead and do it. So does it have to be a professor or a lecturer in the field of study? You can expound on that for the participants who are also aspiring. That does it have to be the direct lecturer or somebody who has some kind of stature or some kind of who is also the same, I would say, same authority to be able to give you that
and
kind
even
of
even
recommendation.
Adam, before the participants answer the question, is it possible for you to give us your experience in terms of that, and how did you maneuver it? And also, the people that are texting the questions, you could just raise your hand and I'll call you so you ask the questions and then we discuss it.
All right, Nat, thanks for that. I personally, I had to do the same thing as one of your panelists said. I had to try and build a rapport with the professor. Even though it came with 1 year of service, I still had to do it anyways. And finally, that recommendation came through. But I know that the colleagues who just working with departments going to ask more than, you know, our own directions to give recommendations as well, able to try for to advance their.
Thank you. Any of the panelists wants to address that?
Yes, I would also want to add a little bit on that. Yeah, so getting a recommendation can be difficult, especially if you were just a student that was in class and then that is it. But like they mentioned, you need to build a relationship. At some point in time, if you weren't intentional about it and now you want to apply to school, so you need to be intentional about it to build a relationship within a year so that they can give you a recommendation. But with some students, you could, whilst you're in school, you can build that relationship by being active in the departments. Being active in the department and even the programs or the classes that you are interested in, being in touch with those professors to ask them what was their aspiration, how they got into where they are, what caused them to take what they are doing. It's all a relationship building. It all helps you build a relationship and it helps them to know you and know what interests you, because those conversations could even deviate into your personal lives and things you are doing out of school. And that is all a way of getting to know each other. Yes, it is good to get, for my school, for instance, my department, they clearly said they wanted one of the recommendations should come from a professor who had directly worked with me. So my professor that was my supervisor, even though that was not the master's program I was going into, was one of the people who recommended me, because working with that person closely, it is believed that you would be engaged with them every now and then, especially during your research work at the undergraduate level. And then I had also, because I also had a special interest in conservation, I had relationship with that professor too, contacting them, asking them more about it, because I already knew that I wanted to further or do something in that line, rather than what I was doing my research in at my undergrad, during my final year. So you could be doing those in line, and it's not something that is supposed to be like you sit down and you intentionally have a sit down time to say, I want to ask to get to know you, tell me about it.
It has to be organic.
It should be an organic process. And I also had a third recommendation from just one of our professors that I was attending her class and also engaging with her, asking questions about the class and knowing more about that study, but did not necessarily work with me directly in my research, but I was a student in one of her classes. So they are different arena, but the point is the person must know you beyond your grade score, must know you beyond saying that, oh, I saw him in a department, he was a teaching and research assistant. Apart from that, what else makes you stand out? Were you volunteering in departmental program or taking part in departmental activities? I know that most of you may have associations in your department, maybe Econ Statistics Students Association. Do you partake in those things? Those are ways that the lecturers in that department will also get to know you better.
Okay, thank you so much. there are a couple of questions, and I want to just, put all of them together because we have like 3 minutes, but we request that, if people want to join for more than 15 minutes, we can discuss that. I'll ask Valerie to also chip in real quick before I, sum together all the questions that I have on my screen.
Just to piggyback off what Rhoda had said, and also kind of what Adam had said, asking if it was just lectures. For me, like I said, I applied in the States. Another place I got a recommendation from while doing my undergrad, I had volunteered a lot with the refugee programs and around. We could go teach English and do. So I'm trying to translate that in Ghana and figure out how you could do that. I'm thinking national service. I think that's a good because you work with people, have relations with them, and they for a year see your work ethic and everything. So they can also attest to your character in that way. So it doesn't necessarily have to be
a professor.
Yeah, all three of them has to be professor. Just people you've worked with and had some form of relation where they could attest to your character. You could use them to.
But not necessarily your family.
No.
No. I mean, the national service, it's not family. It's.
Yes, I just wanted to state that because most often some people think they could use their family as
definitely
not family.
So to add, generally in the recommendation letter, you want someone who can speak to your academic work, your professional behavior, your ability to tackle multiple tasks, how hardworking you are, but who can be very practical in explaining the characteristics that you have. So if you, for example, I know people that can use like their church elder or their church pastor, but then the church pastor, if the church pastor is going to be talking about how prayerful you are, how you are trying and like the work of God, you are asking yourself, how related is this to the program of study? So it's good information, but it doesn't add value to your application in any way. But if you work as a clerk in the church building, and the church pastor is going to be talking about how dedicated you were to the work, your ability to work in teams, to mobilize people, then he's coming from a professional perspective. So always you're looking for someone who knows you academically, professionally, that can speak about your work in that light. And that's the type of person you want to be including. And it could be a professor or not, but they know you in that light.
So someone asked the question, and our time is up. It's 12:30. I'm just gonna ask for about 15 minutes more. So if anyone wants to leave the call right now, they can leave. But then there's these questions that I think that we need to tackle. And this one, I'll address it to Isaac. Someone said, instances where students fail, let's say their GRE, is there any alternative? And I'm asking this to Isaac specifically because you did not do well in your first one, but you went at it again. And then if someone is asking that, is working experience one of the requirements for graduate schools? If you can also tackle that. I think this question has been answered. In case you are not fully funded, is it still advisable to go ahead and do it? And still apply, and anyone can address that. So Isaac, Efia, and then anyone else that wants to tackle.
Before they go into it, I don't want us to miss this person's question. She asked a question on, is it advisable to state your race, although it is optional?
Do you want to answer that?
I want to give the opportunity to my colleagues to also. I stated my race.
You need to.
And the closest to my race over there was Black or Black/African.
And American. Right?
Yes, or African American. So I just selected that. And whether it was advisable or not, I felt that there was a need to also show that I'm come to my presence alone will also show diversity on the school campus. Exactly. So that was why I stated my race, and I felt it would give me it will show that I'll be an asset to the school.
And just to add on to that, just because of affirmative action too, it's nice to say, like, for us, we're Black, so you could say I'm African American, I'm Black, not African American. And I think that goes,
Long way. Yeah.
it helps out too.
So Isaac, can you tackle the question of failing the GRE on your first go? And
Okay, so with the GRE, it's part of your application. The GRE is part of your application. So you have to read about it on your school side, because every school requires, they'll tell you, oh, you have to get a quantitative of, let's say, 5 of 150, English of 140. So failure here can even be relative. Probably you had 155, but I think you didn't get 160, so you failed. So you have to know that, you have to really know this. But
where in another school you could have passed with the 150?
Yes.
Okay.
So you have to know the cutoff. Yeah, and the GRE is part of your whole application. That's why they will. So I think a woman from Yale, what we posted on our site on Facebook, he was saying the application is like a power, like you're putting stuff on you're building something. So that's why they are taking recommendation, they are taking this, they are taking that. So just put in your best, try to write early so you have the chance to re-register and write again. And someone also said that if is it compulsory to submit TOEFL? I think we spoke about this, maybe you didn't join early, but you also have to know from the program whether the TOEFL or the GRE is, some schools, they will require you, some program, no matter what, you have to submit the GRE. Some, they'll tell you it's optional. So you have to read about it from the program site and know whether you have to submit it or not. And also have to know the cutoff point. So if you know that, okay, you are really way below it, then you know you have to try it again. But if you are somehow, if it's 155 and you had 154 or 153, yes, probably your GPA is good, 3.8, it covers it. So your application, it's a whole, it's a lot that we've spoken about. It's just not the GRE, but make sure you get as many marks as you can, as possible.
Okay, thank you so much, Isaac. Ifya.
Yeah, I'll touch briefly on the GRE before I go to the work experience. So if you write the GRE and you do not pass, I think another critical thing to note is the funding source for which the GRE is being requested. If you're going to graduate school and the scholarship you're seeking is through graduate school and they are saying they need the GRE scores, then it is critical that you meet those guidelines, because those cutoff points, because it's competition that you're competing for the funding. However, if you're working through, let's say, a professor who has expressed interest in working with you and has encouraged you to submit the application because you do meet a need that they are interested in, and as part of the graduate school requirement for submitting, you must write a GRE, I would say contact the lecturer to say, hey, I wrote the GRE, this is the scores I made. Is it crucial that I meet the deadline, the cutoff? Because for some people, depending on the funding source, it might just be a requirement, write GRE. It's not meet the cutoff per se. So even when you don't meet the cutoff point, you can still submit and you will still be able to get your funding source because it's coming from a professor who has funds and he's already expected to fund you. So it's not a question of is it you versus someone else and they are looking at GRE anymore. So depending on know your funding stream for which you are submitting the GRE, it would help you to know the next steps, whether you need to write or you need to contact someone else to know if it's okay. Now, work experience, not necessarily. There are a lot of people that finish undergraduate and move straight on to continue with their higher education. So if you just need to show consistent use of your time over years. So from 1990 to you finish your BC, you went to SS, then you went to do your master's right after, you went to undergraduate school, and there is no time lapses. Like you don't have 5 years where you are not in school, you are not working, nothing. That becomes questionable. But if there is a time lapse, then you have to show that, oh, I was not in school at this time and I was working. Then even the type of work might not really matter. You can even put it in your personal statement to show that you were occupied during that time. So there's not a major time lapse, but actual work experience is good if you have. It doesn't take away or add much unless it ties highly to the program of study and gives you an edge. Let's say you're going to do, I'll use myself, I'm going to do a master's in international development, and I've already worked in the international development field for 2-3 years, have very relevant experience. In that way, it really does ties in and helps give me an edge in my application. But other than that, it doesn't. As long as you're not showing a time lapse, you are showing consistent engagement of yourself in a professional manner, whether education or work, it's good.
Okay, thank you so much. We have about 5 minutes. Edna, do you have anything to add to all that?
Yes, so I would just like to tackle the question about if you had a partial funding, would you still go ahead and go to school? I would say that first and foremost, that decision is pretty much it's up to you to make that decision. You can, for example, still try and find the additional source of funding just for you to get your I-20 from the school, and also for visa purposes. When you get to campus, you try and find additional work on campus. There are different avenues to get additional funding, either from your department, from other departments, or even from campus itself, like the dining center, the recreational center, or somewhere else. You could go through that route, meaning that you just need to show to the school that, hey, I'm in a position to pay the rest of my fees, because if you don't do that, they are not going to issue the I-20 to you. Exactly. And that part is very critical. If you don't also show the rest of the funding, the embassy will not grant you a visa. Right. You can go through that route, but just remember that if you go through that route and you go to school, the rest of your fees, obligations will still have to be met. So when you are on campus, you still have to do whatever it takes for you to be able to meet the other part of the money there, in terms of like maybe school fees, or it could be just your room and board. Yeah, so it's really up to you if you want to go that route. The other route is to try and explore and see if you can get other sources of funding on top of that, from Ghana or from other sources outside of the school, before you make the transition to go to school. At the end of the day, it's just up to you. Some of us have the experience of not having full funding and still went to school and found other ways to top up the funding. So you decide.
And then to add up to that is based on the survey that we had, the highest priority was that we do this in-depth analysis of the requirements. The next thing will be the funding, and then the final part of our session, the 4-part series, will be discussing, getting your visa and then coming here. So I would like to ask any of the participants, if you have any question, you can unmute yourself, ask the question right now. We have 4 more minutes, and then we're gonna end. So if anyone has a question, go ahead, and then our panelists will try to answer. If no one has a question, then the panelists will just give us our final words, and then we'll close for the day.
Okay, so I want to say that I just want to highlight the fact that you should open the pool of schools that you want to apply to. With that, you can see that, oh, this school requires GRE, this school waives GRE, this school waives TOEFL. So you can see the schools that are going to be easier for you to apply to. The schools, that you can easily get into. So if you check more schools, then you can narrow your pool to schools that even with the list that you have, your chances of getting in are high. Yeah. Then you can apply to those schools. So that's what I want to say.
Okay. Anyone else?
Yeah, I will add that applying is fairly simple. It is not, what I have noticed is people usually find it scary to apply, but applying is fairly simple. Getting the scholarship is what's may be the challenge, but applying is fairly simple. As long as you have gotten yourself prepared by getting all the requirements involved down, because like I did mention, the online application portal can take you as simple as 30 minutes to finish filling out. But before that 30 minutes will happen, you should have written a statement of purpose that may take you 4 weeks to write a good one. You should have been able to have a recommender who is ready to spend 15 or 30 minutes to write a letter or to even fill out the form for you. So applying is fairly simple, but the work you have to do before applying requires that you have to start early.
Anyone else?
Yeah, let me quickly chime in.
Okay.
And thank you, Nana, for that delivery. I like that. And one thing, guys, or people have to know is that you can if you put in the work, you get it.
Yes.
You will definitely get it. But you also have to know that sometimes, you know, you might be rejected, which is okay, which is fairly okay. Go at it again. Go at it again, and don't give up on the dream. Oh, I applied 2 times, 3 times, I was rejected, so that is it. No, and maybe it wasn't your time, but keep at it, and trust me. Once you're here, you know that yes, it was really worth it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Adam. Anyone else? So for me, what I would say is the onus will lie on you, the person that wants to come to school. So our panel can talk all we want. The people that, you know, are contributing to this will talk all we want. But then at the end of the day, it lies on you. You have to do your research. You have to understand your circumstances and your situation. You have to understand your financial situation. And then you have to, you know, do the work that will make your situation less cumbersome once you arrive here. And so for our next panel discussion, we'll be discussing funding, which is very crucial. I mean, you can come to school here full ride, or you can come to school here half ride, or you can come to school here funding yourself. Either way, no one can understand your situation more than you will. And so when they give you these little advices, it's up to you to go, take it, and then apply it per your situation. And I hope people are taking notes. People that are asking for these slides will use the slides to their own benefits because others have used it and they're here, they're getting that education and in hopes to come back home and be more helpful to our country. I don't know if anyone has anything else to say. If not, I would say we should end here. We still have 4 minutes.
Yeah. So I think we've said it all. Don't feel that you are in this journey alone. We have a Facebook page that we recently started. If you still want to continue the conversation, feel free to join the Facebook page. This recording will be shared on our YouTube as well, YouTube channel. You can watch all over again if you missed any part of the session. But also on Facebook page, we will be sharing more information and helping out. If you have any question, you can always drop your questions there on our YouTube channel, and we will definitely answer you. Just when you get stuck, come back, ask us questions. We'll be there to answer the questions for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Edna.
Nat, a quick one here. I was just thinking in preparation for the next webinar where we are looking at funding. And those who are on our Facebook page, if they don't mind, they can indicate the program of study or the area of interest there so that we can have a look at the pool to see which programs most people are aiming at. And as we look at the funding options that are available and how to secure them, we can tailor them to some of these specific areas and be able to actually look at options that are available in those areas that might speak to majority of our panelists as we do our search.
Yeah, that sounds good. Adam has his hand up, if you can go ahead. Unless that you raised
No, yeah, it was long ago, sorry.
Okay, that's fine. All right, guys, thank you everyone for joining us. We appreciate your engagement, and we hope that this has been beneficial. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye.